I can manage a pair of glasses that will help me, I'd like to read to you an article by a fascinating girl who just graduated from high school. I was fortunate enough to be able to get a hold of, meaning a copy of this fascinating article by a fascinating girl of the new generation of activists in the environment. Issue of Vogue with Greta. I'll see if I can find the page that the article was on, if it has an index, so I don't have to ruin the magazine looking for it. What she has to say is quite important, and the way that she says it shows how thoughtful she can be. Which is important, because we need thoughtful people. Tim Pattinson writes, Greta Thunberg is the voice of a generation. Over the last 3 years, the Swedish teenager has become the most recognized activist in the world. Recognizable activist in the world. Calling upon world leaders to halt the climate crisis. Given our love of nature, we could think of no one more fitting for the debut of Vogue Scandinavia. Here she talks with two other Swedish conservationists, the artist duo Alexander Klam, who shot Greta for the issue's cover, about their shared vision of a sustainable future. The voice on the phone is one of the most recognizable voices in the world. It's Greta, I'm downstairs. This is the voice that has admonished political leaders around the world and chastised CEOs of global companies. This is the voice that has told the adult world they have failed the youth. This is the voice that has called for action on the climate crisis at talks at the UN, and a voice that has been sampled hundreds of times by musicians around the world. I've never heard it because I'm deaf. Opening the door of my Stockholm apartment, I see a group of 5 teenage girls do a double take as they pass Greta. They giggle, turn back, and pull out their phones with squeals of delight. I hold the door open as Greta stands patiently, smiling as one by one they get their selfies with the girl who's become the voice of a generation. Greta has cycled here. She turns up with no chaperone, no family member or mind, and just her backpack on her back. Greta Thunberg turned 18 earlier this year. It's as fresh face as we've seen in the various documentaries and news items about her. Her long braided hair, which she occasionally fiddles with during the afternoon, rests on her shoulder. She wears a striped cotton shirt, creased and frayed, that looks like it has been through the wash 1,000 times. Her baggy leopard print leggings show their age. Greta points out the patchwork stitching, a very rough repair job that she did herself, she explains. Last time I bought something new was 3 years ago. It was secondhand. I just borrow things from people I know. As the early summer sunshine streams in through the window, Greta sits at my kitchen table with a nonchalant composure and confidence that belies her youth. Greta and I are joined by Iris and Matthias Alexandrov Klam, who photographed her for the cover of the first issue of Vogue Scandinavia via a Zoom call from their home in Spain. The multimedia artists use sound, photography, and film to explore the idea of living in harmony with nature. From the beginning, I had a passion for nature, and gradually, as we gained references, it changed me, said Mattias. We spent the best part of 4 decades traveling the world, documenting our changing environment and the impact of man on fragile ecosystems. Fragile ecosystems. I tried to vitalize the beauty of nature, but I saw the anthropogenic changes, the horrendous situation we have entered into. My work became more balanced, and I started to become more inclined to show the juxtaposed worlds. Iris has spent a lifetime studying the relationship between mankind and the natural world. She explains that she uses inspiration from nature and the natural sciences as methods of spiritual research to find the answers we all are looking for. What it means to be human today and how we are interlinked with nature. And what do we need to do to change this relationship that's obviously broken? We need to show the very basic notion that we are all one, that we are all one, all connected, says Iris. The couple photographed Greta in forest near Stockholm. Greta was quiet but not uncomfortable. It's well known she doesn't like small talk and preferred to spend much of her time on the set alone, exploring the stunning landscape, spending time with the Icelandic horse Strangur, who is the third star of this cover, alongside Greta in the Scandinavian landscape. Greta has a love of horses and almost encyclopedic knowledge of them. Her father says she has a photographic memory, and the incredible amount of detail she knew about them would corroborate this theory. Shy in front of camera, Greta was clearly unused to being dressed, styled, and pampered for Vogue. However, she would always engage in conversation when approached with the poise and clarity we have come to know. When Greta talks, it's articulate, controlled. She's relaxed and laughs often, a small half smile that cracks into a short giggle. The statistics and facts that she delivers are done with well-rehearsed clarity. I see myself sometimes as a broken record who repeats the same things over and over again, she laughs. Might get a bit repetitive, but that's just a sign that people aren't really listening. So we must repeat the messages until it reaches people. The way she speaks in her non-native English is like that of a well-versed world leader. Her sentences are punctuated with repetition for emphasis, as if she were standing on a world stage rather than sitting in my kitchen. She has the prowess of an aged diplomat, stating her personal views but caveating them with disclaimers. If you are buying fast fashion, then you are contributing to that industry and encouraging them to expand, encouraging them to continue the harmful process, she says. Of course, I understand that for some people, fashion is a big part of how they want to express themselves and their identity. Greta is aware that her comments can be quickly shared globally and that although half the world loves her, the other half doesn't. She speaks with off-the-cuff fluency, but is controlled in what she says, aware that almost anything can be misinterpreted. Another controversy could engulf her. Former President Trump was one of her most vocal critics, and recently most of China attacked her after a China daily journalist questioned her veganism. She hit back saying the journalist was fat-shaming her. It was very fun, she says with a smile. Treating these global spouts with entire nations is little more than minor irritations. There's no hint of an angry little girl here. Instead, I am faced with a cheerful, confident young woman who is passionate and quick to deflect her accomplishments. I see my role as being small, part of a much, much larger movement, which we are all equally important. Some people may see me as a figurehead or as a leader, a representative of the movement, but this is far from being true, as we are a grassroots movement. The notion that those she looks up to most And the people fighting in silence sums up her lack of concern for the celebrities, royalty, world leaders who clamor to host her at palaces and castles around the world. Nor does she criticize those who have attacked her publicly. I never get disappointed in people because I try to see things from their perspective and then I understand why they do what they do, she says. We talk about former President Trump's regular and vocal attacks on her. You have to see it from a larger perspective, she says very philosophically. Why are they writing these kinds of things? It's because they feel they're being too loud. They want to silence us. We are being too loud and they want to silence us. Whether it's by scaring us or intimidating us or to spread doubt about us so people won't believe what we are saying. So people won't take us seriously. And that they do by spreading lies, hate, mockery, and so on. So that's, in a way, a very positive sign we're having an impact. They're not evil, they just don't know better. At least that's what I'm trying to think. She says that grown adults, presidents, and prime ministers who spend their time spreading lies about children and mocking teenagers who just want to do good in the world are hilarious and entertaining. It's hard to know whether she is putting on a brave face or whether she has managed to find a way to not take these attacks, which are constant personally. I can't keep track. There must be at least one new conspiracy theory about me every day. One second I'm an American spy, and the next second I'm a Russian agent, and then I'm a communist, and an extreme capitalist. One second I'm controlled by my parents, I can't think for myself. The next second I'm an evil, manipulative little child. These theories don't match, and that's also the fun of it. It's very unreasonable. If you listen to these people, they say, I'm just emotional. I just cry. And then the other person says, yeah, exactly. She just repeats the science. These views completely contradict each other. Although Greta seems more amused by these intellectually naive conspiracy theories and scared or upset, the consequences of this rhetoric are very real. Unfortunately, it often doesn't stop with name calling. These things just trigger people who become more and more angry, who are just confirming their views of me. Whether it is sending letters with threats or whether they're coming to the apartment. The threat was so extreme that Greta has had to switch between apartments. Received some not so encouraging things, she says. I tried to have a hidden identity for a while, but it was just too complicated. You couldn't do things, you couldn't apply for school. It was so much work, so I gave up. There's no hint of fear in her voice, no anger, even disappointment. It's just very matter of fact. This is just a small price to pay for being the voice of a global movement. This changed the way the world views the climate crisis in 3 short years. Greta started her activism with School Strike for Climate. For years, she sat outside Parliament in Stockholm with a sign calling for stronger action on climate change. Before long, she had started a movement which became Fridays for Future. Millions of students around the world spend their Fridays take to the streets and lobbying governments in a bid to bring attention to the climate catastrophe. She's a remarkable person. And I read that in commemoration of her graduation from high school. Today was her last um, school strike for the climate because she's no longer a student in Swedish public schools.